All right, so good afternoon, Golden Flashes, Kent State University. Welcome to the first Talking with Todd of the 23-24 academic year. I hope you had a good summer. If your summer was like my summer, you went from spring commencement in May to summer commencement, and it went by in a flash. And so I'm glad you're joining us. Let me just tell you what I plan on doing today in my remarks, and then we'll leave a lot of time for question and answers. So I'm going to talk about some good news. Then I'm going to talk about some challenges. I want to talk about a change that we are making in vice presidencies. And then I want to just finish out with a reminder of our core values and really my plan to express our commitment to those core values throughout the academic year this year. So again, thanks for tuning in to today's event. And I see we have 226 attendees, so welcome all 226, and here's to a great fall semester. Okay, so good news. Well, in terms of enrollment, we have a very strong freshman class on the Kent campus. In terms of the numbers of students, once again, we enrolled more than 4,200 new students. That's the second year in a row. You know, just for context, during COVID, that dipped down into the 3,900 students, and now we're at a little over 4,200 for the second year in a row. Really good growth in international enrollment, both undergraduate and graduate, and was told that this is the highest international enrollment at Kent State since 2017. So that's coming back, and a lot of great work being done by the Office of Global Education. And then I learned recently that this is the first year at Kent, on the Kent campus, since 2012 that we're starting an academic year with more students than we ended the previous year. So good news. Also, a huge shout out to our regional campuses, a huge shout out to our regional campus professors and staff and leaders, because retention, meaning, you know, that percentage of freshmen that return as sophomores, was up nearly 4%. That's really phenomenal work done on our regionals. And then sort of a mixture of good news and then moving into challenges. The good news is we balanced our budget for the fiscal year 24. To do that, as I've talked about before, we had to make roughly $20 million in spending reductions to get to a balanced budget, and yet we were able to include raises for our represented and all our represented and all of our unrepresented employees. So we had the challenge of a budget, but we were able to balance it and also give raises. And so that sort of blends in then to the challenges. And, you know, honestly, one of the challenges is our biennial budget just was not good for Kent State. It just wasn't good for higher education. And so higher education and support in the form of the state subsidy of instruction will increase by 1% this year and 1.2% next year. Thankful for that. On the other hand, we're living in an inflationary moment, and A, that no way keeps up with inflation, and B, tuition increases have long been, for the last 7 years or so, limited to incoming students. We don't raise tuition on current students, and that was limited to 3%. So that's a challenge. And then, you know, we have ongoing legislation that would impact us, so legislative proposals. And we talked a lot last year about Bill 83. That has been reintroduced in the House. I can talk about that in question and answer, but I don't know a lot yet, but it's been reintroduced. So, okay, I think I'll finish with a change that we're making in administrative units at the cabinet level. walk you through what that is, why we're doing it, what the thinking is behind it. And then I want to finish with the discussion of our core values and the focus on those core values this year. Okay, so some time ago, I started thinking about combining the vice presidencies of human resources and diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I want to walk through why I started to think about that. And I'll start by telling you that that's what we're going to do. Now, we had thought about spending this entire semester gathering information before we did this. And then 2 weeks ago, our interim vice president, Tiffany Murray, announced that she had taken a chief human resources offer at an institution, a university outside of Ohio. And her last day will be Friday. So we thank Tiffany for her 18 months of interim service as the interim vice president for human resources. Even before Tiffany informed me of her departure, I had been talking to her and to Vice President Amwaba Gooden about making this move. So let me just walk you through my thinking and our thinking. Thank you, Tiffany, for all that good work that you did. The new leader of this combined unit, and we don't have a name yet for it, but I want to walk you through our thinking on that. But the new leader of that unit will be Vice President Amwaba Gooden. And all of us know of the considerable strengths that Dr. Gooden brings to the work that she does, just an exemplar of a caring individual with the highest understanding of academia and a real understanding of our students, but also of our staff and faculty. So, okay, why do this? Well, when I was provost, I was in on the initial efforts to really increase student success at Kent State University. And what we did in that endeavor was we really doubled down on our processes and procedures to make sure that they were the right processes, they were the right procedures, that we didn't have unintended obstacles to keep students from enrolling efficiently or getting what they needed from us. So process and procedure are really important. I'm holding up my hand, but you can't really see my hand. And then on the other hand, it clear that we wanted to build a culture of belonging, build a culture of support. As I have often said, we wanted to get to a point culturally with our students that when they stubbed their toe academically, their first response would not be to leave the institution. Their first response would be to stay here, to get help, and to eventually graduate. And so it was really that uniting of a real commitment to having the right processes and procedures in place, and then doing that work. And on the other hand, building that culture of belonging, of student support. You know, as part of building that culture, we increased mental health funding by 1.2, nearly $2 million actually, dollars a year, eliminated wait times, guaranteed evening hours for counseling. And that worked. And it's still a work in progress, but we've seen the impact that that's had on student degree completion, retention, and so forth. So I began months ago to think about, did we have the same opportunity to apply that approach to how we treat our employees? In other words, a rock solid commitment to the appropriate processes, the appropriate procedures, compliance, making sure we all get paid on time, making sure that if we're paying an insurance premium, it's the right premium to be paying, offering good benefits. All of that process, procedures, and compliance, really important. In addition, I thought we had an opportunity to start focusing more on culture, building a culture of belonging, building a culture of access, building a culture of equity. And as I thought about this work, I thought, well, with Dr. Gooden, we have really literally a nationally recognized leader in how to build that supportive culture, literally a nationally recognized leader in how to guarantee, how to move the needle in terms of access, and then doing the things to build a culture that's very supportive. understanding that people bring different strengths and different challenges, and how do we address that as a good employer, a supportive employer. And so I started talking to Dr. Gooden some months ago about this. We started looking at other universities have done this, Vanderbilt, Utah, some other universities. And then the plan was really to spend this fall working through the details. I mentioned that Interim Vice President Murray has announced that she's leaving the university, and so I'm saying today that we are now starting on Monday, we'll have those units combined. And under Vice President Gooden's leadership, we'll spend the rest of this semester, she will, going out and gathering opinions, gathering information, gathering your input as we make this combined group a reality. I spoke to the HR folks today, the great employees in HR about it. I spoke to our great employees in DEI about it today. And we don't know what we're going to call it yet. Now, we know that Vanderbilt has named their combined unit the Vice Presidency for People, Culture, and Belonging. People, culture, and community. We'll think about that. You'll have a chance to opine and give input on the appropriate name for this new unit. But why? Well, you know, human resources, people really gets at the heart of what we do. It's about our people. It starts with people. Without people, obviously, we're not going to get anything done. And then for those people to thrive and succeed, we really need to have a supportive culture. And, you know, a culture that really pays attention to well-being, a culture that looks for opportunities to improve the well-being of our employees, a culture that is committed to removing obstacles, providing opportunities which really collectively lead to a strong sense of belonging. So people, culture, belonging, that you belong at Kent State, that it's the right thing to create this supportive culture, and it makes us a better university. And in the end, with all things human resources, I mean, the procedures and processes have to work, right? I mean, the trains have to run on time. So while we're building this supportive culture, part of that is making sure that we have all the procedures and the processes in place, and we're doing that strong work. I'm not saying we haven't been doing that. That's just two sides of the same package. So again, thank you to Tiffany Murray. We wish her well as she leaves Ohio for an opportunity at a different institution. And certainly we salute Dr. Gooden for her leadership, for her knowledge of Kent State, for her experience. Again, I think you'll agree with me that there's really no one that I can think of that brings more empathy, that brings a deeper knowledge, that brings a stronger commitment to building that great supportive culture that embraces access, that embraces equity, and that embraces opportunity and creates a sense of belonging on our campus. So it's very exciting, and look forward to your interacting with Dr. Gooden as we combine these two units into one vice presidency. And I will finish my opening remarks by mentioning that this year I will take every opportunity to discuss our university core values, and in particular our core value of kindness and respect in all we do, combined with a fierce commitment to the freedom of speech. And I talked about this at freshman convocation. You're certainly welcome to look at that video. You can find it at kent.edu/president. Then if you'll see the pull down menu for public speeches. And in essence, we just want to always remember that our North Star as an institution is kindness and respect in all we do, combined with a commitment to freedom of speech. So when we address opportunities and challenges, big and small, and we're thinking, well, how are we going to deal with this? How are we going to respond to an event? What is our messaging? Always needs to be driven by that core value. So very much appreciate your patience as I share this message of kindness and respect, and this real commitment to freedom of speech. And you know, it's easy for me to sit here and say that, and but in reality, then we just have to be mindful of the fact that, particularly when we go into a national election, there'll be a lot of heightened rhetoric. There'll be a lot of incendiary rhetoric, and we're going to address that by reminding people of our core values. So I think I'll stop there, and I'm going to start answering questions. Let me first take a sip of coffee. And I'll start answering questions. So the first question is, does Dr. Gooden have a degree or job experience specific to human resource law, Affordable Care Act oversight, benefits oversight, negotiation, or higher education union negotiation? So if I understand this question, it's specifically about degree and job experience. So certainly Dr. Gooden has been a really valuable member of the administrative bargaining team. So when we negotiated our last labor contracts with AAUP tenure track, with AAUP non-tenure track, and with AFSCME, Dr. Gooden was part of our negotiating team. Certainly as the leader of an academic unit, she was involved in hiring, in personnel management, in tenure and promotion decisions, which are a personnel action. So she knows that side, and then she'll join together with these great people that are over there in human resources right now that would have more specific expertise in those kinds of procedural and process matters that are mentioned in this question. Because again, let's just keep in mind what we're doing with this combined unit. We're saying that yes, compliance, process, procedure, that is the bedrock of what we need to be doing. We have good people that are helping us do that, and now we want to combine it with a real focus on building that culture and being very intentional about building a supportive culture. Okay, I saw you were in New York to see our fashion students. What was the fashion show like? So we had two fashion shows. They were both very impressive. The first fashion show was a combined show of Kent State University students and students from the International Fashion Academy in Paris. I think there were 12 or 14 students total who showed collections ranging from one outfit to 5 or 6, and about half were Kent State students and half were International Fashion Academy students. Very, very impressive work. And it's always good to interact with our New York Fashion Lab director, Ann, and her staff, and to see our students. And at the end of the show, boy, we must have had 100 Kent State fashion alumni present. It was really great to talk to them and see what they're doing in the fashion world in terms of their employment. That was the first show. The second show was the finals of the Supima Cotton competition. This is a competition that the Supima Cotton Company or association puts forward. There are about a half a dozen universities. They each choose a finalist who then, and each finalist spends the summer putting together a collection that's all Supima cotton. They do the dyeing of the fabric, they do the stamping, the printing of the fabric, and you know, it was Kent State, Drexel, Art Institute of Chicago, Fashion Institute of Technology, Parsons, a couple of schools from the West Coast. And it was really great to see our student, Wendy, doing her work that was so well received in New York City. So thanks for that question. It's a long-winded answer, but the answer is it was just a healthy reminder and vivid reminder, literally vivid reminder of the excellent fashion design and merchandising program we have at Kent State and how it just makes us different from other schools. Okay, thanks for continuing the weekly meal swipe for employees. You know, again, as we think about people, culture, belonging, community, you know that, and you've heard me say before that we started this swipe program. We thought we would do it one semester coming out of COVID, bringing people back to campus. We thought, well, people are coming back to campus. Let's show our appreciation. We'll do the meal swipe. After a semester of doing that, we started hearing lots of really moving accounts of how employees were going to lunch together. It was their chance to dine with their colleagues, and what a healthy part of that culture it was. So that's just an example of that as we move into an extended focus on culture and building culture. Okay, what is happening with our Paris campus? Are students still able to study there? So, all right, there's an entity, for those of you who don't know, we have 418 on the call right now, and thanks to each one of you 418 for what you do, and thanks for being on the call. Paris American Academy has existed since the 1960s, and for many years, Kent State has been sending fashion students there for a semester abroad experience in Paris. The director of the Paris American Academy was looking to retire, and he approached us about Kent State taking over the Paris American Academy and making it a Kent State program. And we, over the past 2 years, have worked to make that a reality, and we're all set for that transition to happen on January 1st, 2025. Tragically, there was a natural gas explosion in the building this summer, completely destroyed the building. One professor was killed, and Peter Carmen, our beloved friend and the longtime director of the Paris American Academy, was seriously injured. All this was reported in the national and international news, and Peter remains in treatment. And right now in the fall, we are not having classes in Paris, but our plan is to restart those in January, and an enormous credit goes to Provost Tankersley and to Marcello Fantoni, who have been looking for partners, who have been looking for a place for our students to live and to study. Great cooperation from the leaders of Paris, the city of Paris. And in the end, you know, we mourn the loss of a faculty member in the explosion, and we certainly continue to wish for the recovery of Peter Carmen. But we also want to acknowledge that on a typical day when that explosion happened, all of our students would have been in the building. They would not have survived that blast. However, it was during Paris Fashion Week, and they were all attending a Paris fashion show. So a lot of bad things have happened at the Paris American Academy, but that is a really stroke of great fortune, and we look forward to restarting that program in the spring. Okay, I love the idea of bringing these two areas together. I believe Dr. Gooden will continue to do great things. My question, both units are staffed currently. Can you share your thoughts on this issue? So certainly we hired a consultant, gosh, maybe 2 years ago now, 18 months ago now, to do a review of HR, and clearly they came back and said HR is understaffed. And so as we combine these two units, we're certainly not combining the units to cut budgets or to cut the number of employees. We're actually combining them, and we know that we have to make further hires. And Tiffany Murray has been doing that, and now she's leaving, and Dr. Gooden will continue to do that as well. So yes, we know we're understaffed in that area, and we need to do something about that. I mean, the next question is really the heart of it. Excuse me while I take a drink. The next question really gets to the heart of the core values. How do we balance kindness and respect with freedom of expression when expressing certain ideas or perspectives may be hurtful to some, but not all? Yeah, I think that's really the crux of the matter, isn't it? That's what I was trying to get at when I said that it's easy to say these things, and then the proof is, how do we act in a way that's driven by a real commitment to those values? And I'll give you an example. When I was in New York for the fashion show and to meet with donors and to meet with alumni, I received a communication from a student complaining about bumper stickers on a truck, and it was parked over by where some construction was happening. And what was I going to do about it? And I mean, look, I'll give you an idea of what the bumper sticker said. It said F Biden, and it showed a skeletal middle finger and said F Biden. And you know, honestly, I don't think that does not live up to our commitment of kindness and respect. And you know what? If that bumper sticker said F Trump, I would say the same thing. That's just not that's not what we mean when we say we're committed to kindness and respect. At the same time, we recognize there's freedom of speech. So how would we act in a situation like that? Well, I think that's an opportunity to us for express our commitment to kindness and respect, to explain what kindness and respect looks like, and to appeal to the better nature of people. At the same time, we can't ban a truck because it has that bumper sticker on it. So that's how we're going to navigate these waters. I don't have a stock answer for this. It'll be situationally dependent, but that's how we're going to have to deal in a world where, particularly as we move into a presidential election, we're going to see this kind of activity going forward. Not a question. I hope we can remind everyone that the 2023 Ohio Latino Affairs Summit is happening this Friday on Kent campus in the Kent Student Center, and keynote Dr. Marla Perez Davis. So thank you for that shout out. 2023 Ohio Latino Affairs Summit is happening this Friday on the Kent campus in the Kent Student Center. And if you're not familiar with the keynote speaker, Dr. Marla Perez Davis, real great addition to our College of Aeronautics and Engineering staff and leadership. Dr. Perez Davis was for years the director of the NASA Glenn Research Center in Cleveland, really an accomplished aerospace leader. And we are so pleased to have her as part of our leadership team in aeronautics and engineering. And she will be the keynote speaker. I believe Dr. Perez Davis is a native of Puerto Rico, and really happy to have her on our campus. And a shout out to all those that made the 2023 Ohio Latino Affairs Summit happen at Kent State. Again, that's Friday. What is the latest on the new business building? Will it open next fall as scheduled? Well, knock on wood, it's all on schedule. I did a hard hat tour of it a few weeks ago. Really was impressed with what was going on over there in terms of our construction partner, Gil Bain, that runs a really great construction site. You get over there, you realize what a wonderful addition that's going to be to campus. And once that building opens, and it's on track to open for fall classes 1 year from now, and then in cooperation with the City of Kent, and really the City of Kent is the leader, we're just an appreciative partner, we'll then remake in Main Street as it runs the entire length of campus from what is now the Cleveland Bagel Shop to the Music and Speech Building. We'll remake that. We'll make it a much more friendly throughway with smart street design improvements, and those will then start after we finish the building. So not only will the front campus have that impressive new wow building, not only will our business faculty, leaders, and students have an amazing building to work in, not only will students and faculty and staff who work over on that side of campus have a very welcoming place to visit, but then we will eventually make smart street improvements to the main street running in front of that building, and that'll benefit us all. Okay, with the biennial budget set with just a 1% increase in the inflationary period we're experiencing, how are we positioning ourselves to meet the challenges of anticipated declining age enrollments? How will that impact positions in the Kent system, faculty and staff? Well, I mean, the good news here is that we've started looking at doing this work in 2017. I just happen to have, not because of this presentation, but just because it's always on my desk, I happen to have these numbers. Now they're now a year old and I need to update them. But here are the employee numbers from the 1st of November 2017 to the 1st of November 2022. We have 515 fewer employees than we did 5 years ago. That's a 12.9% decline. 77 fewer faculty, 233 fewer administrators, 205 fewer staff members. And you know, that was driven by, gosh, 3 rounds. I think 3 rounds of incentivized departures to incentivize our employees to end their employment at Kent State, and really great participation in those plans. So we'll just continue to do that work and continue to be effective and efficient. We did not decide to combine HR and DEI to save money, but I would hope that we could have some cost avoidance in the future. It's not what drove that, but I do think we'll have some cost avoidance in the future as a result. Okay, what is our enrollment picture for the fall, and what can you tell us about future enrollment? Well, again, let me say 2 things. Kent campus, second straight year above 4,200, and that compares to classes around 3,800 to 3,900 during the pandemic, and that's good for us. First time since 2012 on the Kent campus that we have more students in the fall than we had in the spring. So can we just think about that a minute? For the first time since 2012, we have more students in the fall than we had at the end of the spring semester before it. So that's good. That's super good. Also, for budget, for creating our budget, we predicted that we would see a 4% decline on regional campus enrollments, and I think it was much more like 1%, if even that. And then I mentioned that the freshman to sophomore retention rate was up over 3% on our regional campuses. That's all good news. Now we just need to continue to sustain that work. So kudos to our regional deans, kudos to Vice President Peggy Shattuck, kudos to Vice President Sean Broghammer, all of their leadership for making that happen. Okay, not a question, but a comment. I love that Todd tries it with the demo dorm room, really fun to watch. Yeah, I enjoyed making that, and let me just say right now that I think I'm going to try to live for a week, first week of school in a residence hall next fall. So on freshman move-in day, I'll move in, and then it'll be an extended version of Todd Tries It. I mean, I just think it's good for me to understand what students experience. You know, I took a French class, which I ended up performing miserably in last fall and ended up dropping the course. It was just impossible for me to keep up, but it was for about 6 weeks. It was such a great reminder of the work that our faculty put into teaching a course and how taxing that is. And it was a great reminder of our students. It was great to be around our students. We did the Todd Tries It dorm room edition, but now I think I just need to move into the residence hall. So stay tuned for that. Will HR and DEI share the same physical space? DEI stay in the library? I think that's still to be determined. And also one thing that I want to stress is Vice President Gooden will spend the next several weeks and months gathering input about what the unit should look like, what the unit should be doing, including these kinds of issues. And all of you who know Dr. Gooden know that she will do that in an outstanding, empathetic, and very effective way. Okay, lots of momentum in KSU athletics, big weekend coming with the first football game. Are you looking forward to the athletic season? Yeah, I mean, it's already underway. As president, I try to attend at least one competition for every sport. And so I went to the inter-squad scrimmage of the volleyball team I attended a field hockey match, and I will certainly be at least at part of the game on Saturday. So kudos to our athletics director, Randall Richmond, who just has that infectious personality, that amazing commitment to not just success on the field of competition, but success in the classroom, and as he puts it, graduating students boldly prepared for success when they leave Kent State University. That's not just a slogan, that's a reality at Kent State University. Today, our new football coach, Kenny Burns, spoke to a cabinet, and that is an individual that is committed to the life of a teacher, to teaching our student athletes, to winning, but winning in the right way. I know that can sound like a cliche, but that there's a fierce commitment to that with Coach Kenny Burns. So would love to see people at all of our athletics events. They're just a joy for me to attend. And, you know, it's always, for me, such a strong reminder of the kinds of time demands that are placed on our student athletes, and yet they continue to do well in the classroom, not just on the field of competition. Okay, what are the plans for the current College of Business when the new College of Business building is completed and open? Yeah, I mean, to be determined, but we can't afford to keep a lot of buildings on campus that aren't fully occupied. So I could see very well us tearing down that building. I could see moving units into that building and tearing down other buildings. We need to stay neutral on our square footage to not be spending too much of our budget on building upkeep. My guess is we're going to tear down the building, but will we actually tear it down? I don't know that yet. I do know that we have a commitment to not increasing the amount of square footage that we maintain on the Kent campus in our enrollment environment. And with 13% fewer employees than we had in 2017, we can make some consolidations in buildings, but I don't know yet. I'm sorry for the long-winded answer, but we just don't know yet. Okay, the meal swipe is a wonderful idea. Any chance of expanding it to regional campuses? Yeah, so one of the great things about Kent State University is that it is a university system, and those components of the system, while they share many similarities, they are also different. And so one size doesn't fit all. In the meal swipe program, any regional faculty member can do one of the swipes on the Kent campus. But that's because the Kent campus is a residential campus that has a very big and vibrant residence dining hall system in place, infrastructure in place that allows us to extend that and to affect that on the Kent campus. That's not the case on all of our regional campuses. And so I know that we have great deans that will look for additional ways that are appropriate to their campus to signal that commitment to well-being of our employees. It might not be a meal swipe, it might be something else. So is there a chance of expanding it to the regional campuses? Yes, but the regional campuses don't have a residential dining infrastructure that feeds 6,000 plus students every day. And that's why we can do that on the Kent campus, right? We take advantage of the size of that infrastructure. But I know that we have great regional campus leaders, and I know that they will continue to look for ways to honor their employees as well. What are my thoughts on the new lifelong learning unit? How do you see the initiative growing in the next few years? What are the priorities set by leadership? I appreciate the work that Vice President Peggy Shattuck is doing, as we understand that more and more will be teaching students who are 18 years old, but maybe they're starting at 25 years old. That will be teaching students who do not want to earn a degree, but are looking for a credential. And lifelong learning is a part of that process. Reaching out, being an effective partner in a prospective student's educational journey, whether that's entering after high school straight into college, or whether that's to gain a second degree or no degree at all, but a credential. So that's important work. And I really appreciate Vice President Peggy Shattuck's commitment to that work. That's we're doing that work because Peggy's here. It was really what made her very attractive as a candidate when we hired her. Okay, next question. What is the book Wrecked behind you on your desk? Wrecked is, I believe it's Barrett Taylor. Yeah, Barrett Taylor. Barrett Taylor is the author. Barrett Taylor is a professor of higher educational administration at North Texas University, University of North Texas, UNT. He did the research for this book, I think, in roughly 2018-19. And I think it was written right about the time the pandemic started, and it was formally published, I think, right around 2021. And Wrecked is a study of states where we saw some of the initial efforts by a politicized group to kind of attack public higher education. So by attack, I mean challenge our programs, challenge diversity, equity, and inclusion, challenge our budget model, challenge our spending model. And in its part history, it's part policy review. It looks at North Carolina, it looks at Arizona, it looks at Wisconsin, and it looks at Iowa as examples of legislative efforts to really change the model that's been in place in public higher education since, I don't know, what, 1960s? And really question whether public universities add value, and it's driven by legislators with a very strong and strongly announced conservative agenda. And so what I thought I should read this book because in Ohio, our Senate leadership in particular has made no bones of the fact that they think that we're bloated. They think that we spend too much money. They think that we're factories of wokeness, and they're beginning to question all kinds of basic operational principles that we have followed since the mid-1960s. And one of the things in Wrecked at the end of the book, and remember, he was writing, I assume he was writing right around 2020, was he predicted what turned out to happen in Ohio this year budgetarily, and it's this. For the last 50 to 60 years, public university state funding mirrored the economic situation of those states. So when those states' economies were doing well, state funding of public higher education tended to go up. And then when you hit like the Great Recession and the state's economy was not doing well, you would see dramatic cuts in public funding of universities. And then once you had an economic revival, it would start to go back up. Funding would go back up again. But it didn't, right? So we came out of in Ohio, so we came out of the Great Reset, we came out of the COVID, the impact of COVID, and yet at a time when our state finances have, I mean, they're the best they've been in a quarter century, we got the budget that we got. And Rec predicts this. Rec predicts that you will no longer see university funding parallel the financial health, the fiscal health of the state. So that's really I thought I should read this because that's kind of the situation we're in right now, and I was looking for some insight. So that's Wrecked by Barrett Taylor. Thanks for asking about that. Okay, are you going to sit with the marching band again at a football game? Yeah, I typically sit with them the entire game at the President Deichen freeze-out game. So we pick what game we think will be the coldest game of the year, and I sit with the band is our marching band great or what? I mean, they're up to 254 members. I think they were 115 or so, like in 2018 or 19. And Darren Olson's done a great job as the director of the marching band. Wow, such great representatives at Kent State. And yes, I'll sit with them. I mean, I go and visit them every home game, but I'll definitely sit with them at the freeze out game, and it's just fun. What a great group of students to be around. Did Ohio Senate Bill 83 influence the decision to consolidate these positions? And that these positions are the Vice Presidency for Human Resources and the Vice Presidency for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. No, I mean, honestly, not directly. I really was thinking more in terms of how to unite process and procedure with a real focus and commitment to culture and building a culture. So that's what drove it. Now, am I ignoring the rhetoric that I see and that I'm faced with every time I go to Columbus? I'm not ignoring that. So I'll just say this: it was not driven by SB 83, Senate Bill 83, the omnibus bill that we've talked about throughout last year. It wasn't driven by that. I will say that what's important is the work. If we call it diversity, we don't call it diversity. If we call it equity and inclusion, we don't call it equity and inclusion. If we call it people, culture, and belonging, what is important is the work. And the work is creating an equitable, supportive, accessible institution where, regardless of your background, you can come here, you can be supported in a way that's appropriate to your situation, and that our students feel like they belong to the institution, and that our employees feel like they belong to the institution. No, it wasn't driven by SB 83, but that does give me an opportunity to say it's the work that's important. And again, kudos to Dr. Gooden for her leadership. I read that Main Street is going to be redesigned. How will that impact the front campus? Yes, I mentioned this earlier. It's that smart street design which kind of reduces traffic volume. I'm not a traffic engineer and I don't know that nomenclature, but it'll make it easier to cross the street. It should be visually more appealing. And I don't know if you've ever seen a picture of Main Street from, say, the early 60s. It was 2 lanes and the trees formed a canopy over Main Street. Imagine that. We're not going to go back to that exactly, but it'll be a calmer, more visually attractive place and a safer place for all of us. Okay, we appreciate the humility in sharing that your French proficiency hopes got cut short. Yeah, you know, I don't know. I mean, pride goeth before a fall. I figured, well, what the hell? I'm fluent in Spanish, or I used to be anyway. And I'm fluent in Portuguese, very much so. I thought, well, hell, how hard could French be to learn, right? It's a Romance language. Well, it turns out it's damn hard to learn. And I don't know. It just made me realize that learning is hard work. And teaching is hard work. It was a beautiful and vivid reminder of how hard it is to teach, and being a student also is difficult. So even though I failed, I learned a lot of lessons. So thank you for that. You mentioned the possibility of a new ice rink collaborative in the future. How feasible is that? So I mean, look, it's always dangerous for a president to talk because like you, presidents, me, we just think out loud, right? You think out loud, well, gee, wouldn't it be great to do X, Y, or Z? And so I have been known to say, boy, you know, it would be great if Kent State and these towns that have high school and youth hockey teams, what if we all came together and participated financially and built a dedicated hockey rink? I don't know, pick a place. Right at the end of 480 in Streetsboro. Wouldn't that be great? And it would be great. I mean, that was me thinking out loud. I'm just now thinking out loud in front of 391 people. I'll put that on my agenda the next time I talk to City Manager Dave Ruler. But really, the situation we're in is that we have a very vibrant youth hockey scene in Northeast Ohio. We have a vibrant high school hockey scene in Northeast Ohio, but we have a real contraction in the amount of rink space available for those, and the economics are tough, right? In our ice rink, it was built a bazillion years ago. I don't know, what was it built, 40, 50 years ago? And it's coming to the end of its planned existence, and there are a lot of costs. I think if we could do something as communities, that would be good for hockey in Northeast Ohio. Okay, do you think it is all rhetoric in Columbus, or do you believe that there are some legitimate issues that we can tackle as an institution that will promote higher education in Ohio? And I mean, do I think it's all rhetoric? Well, no, I don't think it's all rhetoric. Look, I mean, people have various opinions, and I may agree with parts of their opinions. I may disagree with parts of their opinions. I mean, there was a very long Wall Street Journal expose on spending at state public flagship universities, and it was pretty damning. Now, noticeably, that Wall Street Journal expose did not mention Ohio, and it didn't mention Ohio State because it doesn't fit in to that narrative. Because for the last 7 years or so, we have had very strict tuition increase control in Ohio. So, yes, is there a reality? Yeah, I mean, spending has increased. The cost of earning a college degree has increased. And particularly at flagship universities in some states, costs and tuition increases have dramatically outpaced inflation. So that's not rhetoric. I mean, that's a reality. But it's also becoming a political wedge issue. Okay, were you in this year's K photo with the freshman class? Is that a new tradition? Well, the K photo is right after freshman convocation, which takes place in the MAC. If you haven't gone to that, just make a note to go to it next year. It's during welcome week, and we gather all of our entering freshmen. We go into the MAC. We introduce our deans. We introduce our cabinet. I say a few words. The student government president says a few words, and then we all go out to the grassy area there over by the Tri-Towers, and we use a drone and we take a photo of the freshman class in the form of a K. It's really great. We've been doing it since I became president in 2019, so I hope it continues. Okay, my last question for the day is, did you see Barbie? And if so, what did you think? So I assume this is the Barbie movie. I did see it, and I liked it. And then I spent the whole weekend debating it with my son and daughter-in-law, and they didn't like it a bit. And I can't replicate why they didn't like it, and they're far more articulate, the two of them, than I am, but they did not like that movie. And I see that I have frozen, and not sure what's happening here. Okay, are we back? Good. So what I was saying about Barbie was my son and daughter-in-law didn't like it. Over a long dinner Friday night, they explained to me why they didn't like it, and I can't replicate their reasons. I liked it. Well, I don't know. Why did I like it? Well, for two reasons. One, I went in there thinking, I don't know if I'm going to like this or not, and I think it's a very, very visually interesting movie. It's just very interesting visually, and there are just scenes in there that are so fascinating to me, like when the Kens, the two teams of Kens all dressed in black, have this dance off. I don't know, I liked it. I thought it was a good message of empowerment. My son and daughter-in-law didn't think it was a message of empowerment. Go see the movie, decide what you think. But here's the other reason I liked it. The same couple, the same duo that directed this film, directed White Noise. And if you haven't seen White Noise, came out about a year or a year and a half ago. There are 2 extended scenes in White Noise that were filmed in our student center in what used to be a dining hall in the student center. It stars Greta Gerwig and Adam Driver. It's based on the novel White Noise. I liked it. Lots of people didn't like it. Boy, you couldn't find in some ways 2 different movies than White Noise and Barbie, and yet made by the same couple, and they followed one another, White Noise and then Barbie. Long answer to a fairly short question. Yes, I saw Barbie. I liked it. Other people didn't like it. Go see it and make your own decisions about it. Okay, so we've reached the end of our first Talking with Todd, and so I want to thank all of you for attending and the 373 of you that stayed on until the end. Thanks to LaShonda, thanks to our UCM folks, thanks to Ian for all the technical IT support. Look forward to seeing you back in October for the next Talking and Todd, and I would tell you when that is, but I forgot, but we'll make sure you know about it soon. So thanks everyone, go Flashes, and here's to a great semester. Bye-bye.